Hello everybody, today we are going to discuss The Last Ride Together by Robert Browning. A major Victorian poet, say a representative Victorian poet along with Alfred Lord Tennyson, and he was, I should say, an experimenter of verse forms. Over 200 poems that he wrote, he experimented with different verse forms, different poetic forms, metrical patterns or so, and here too we find that thing reflected in this poem. This poem is of 10 stanzas, and it is about sublimation of an unrequited love. A lover who was rejected by his beloved is not at all sad, is not upset. Rather, he takes it on a positive note, and he compares that to statesman, that to a musician, that to a poet, and feels that he is in a better position than all those people. So that is the kind of thing, a sublimation of unrequited love, unfulfilled love is being shown here. As far as the poem, the form is concerned, we can say that it's a dramatic monologue. Now, what is dramatic monologue? So I should make it clear. A dramatic monologue is a kind of poem in which, as we can understand by the term itself, it's dramatic monologue. So mono is single, log is speech or talk. So how it is, there is a single speaker in dramatic monologue, and he expresses his ideas, he talks. It's a kind of soliloquy like thing, but though not at all a soliloquy. So he speaks, he expresses his thoughts and ideas, and he conveys that to some listeners. Now that may be one or two or more than that, but the listeners actually don't participate in the dialogue, they simply listen. We come to know about the listeners through the talks, the speech of the speaker. We form their image or character through whatever the speaker speaks of them, and even the character of or the image of the speaker through what he speaks. So that is a dramatic monologue, and here this poem is one of that kind, a dramatic monologue. The other thing is iambic tetrameter has been used in this poem. Iambic tetrameter is dominant. So dominant because the other things are also there, that is spondi or pyrrhic. For lower classes it's not much important, but yes, for the UG and PG students that's important to know what is spondi, pyrrhic, and there is a proper stress pattern used in such patterns. In iambic meter we follow what say this weak and strong stress pattern, first weak and then strong, or say unstressed and stressed, that kind of stress pattern is followed in iambic. So similarly, there are different metrical patterns, as I just named two more here, which are also there in this poem. Spondi and Pirit have been used in this poem. So now along with that, we find certain there are certain characteristics which we generally find in Robert Browning's poems. That is obscurity. So obscurity is mainly there in his poems, that he leaves his sentences or ideas unfinished, and that they create a vagueness in his poem. But here, of course, this poem is an exception, we can say, because there is no vagueness or no obscurity here in this poem. The idea is quite clear. Second thing is, we can say that the use of images, so we can say very strong or very good images are used by Robert Browning. They create a very clear picture on our mental skull, on our mind. So such kind of images that we can clearly visualize them in our mind. So such kind of description or imagery is used in his poem. Then we can find a certain kind of unity and compactness in his poem. The other things are the use of parenthesis. Parenthesis and enjambment. So his poems are overburdened by parentheses, which do actually contribute in creating obscurity. But in this poem, not much use of parentheses we find. Parenthesis means using dash or comma or brackets. What the poets do, they put some other thoughts, or a diversion of thoughts is put into that in between a sentence, and that creates vagueness and obscurity in the poems. But this poem is I won't say devoid of that, but yes, less use of parentheses is there in this poem. Enjambment means run-on lines, that what a line continuing to the or flowing into the other one without a pause, without a comma or semicolon or so. So that kind of pattern is generally used, though here not much use of that we find in this poem. And the other thing is, what the syntax is more emotive than grammatical. So these are the qualities that we find in the poems of Robert Browning, and here some of those qualities are quite reflected. And as far as the poem is concerned, if we talk of the theme, the idea of this poem, so here it is about an unrequited love, that is a rejected love affair. A lover was rejected by the beloved, but he is not at all upset by that rejection. He doesn't go into despair by that. Rather, this poem is a sublimation of that unrequited love, that rejected love. The lover takes that rejection even on a positive note. And so a kind of philosophy has been presented here, and Browning was also said to be a philosopher poet. So we can say that though this poem is said to be one of the best love poems ever written, but along with that, this poem on the other side presents a kind of philosophy of life as well. And one more important thing that I should add here, that there is a kind of we can say autobiographical thread here in this poem, that Robert Browning, who was once traveling with his wife Elizabeth Browning, and they had a talk. He said that it seems that traveling is better than reaching the destination and all. So this kind of idea, that here the lover also feels that this ride should go on and it should never come to an end, it should turn to eternity. So that idea has been conveyed in this poem as well, though of course it's not the poet himself, and in dramatic monologues it is always other than the poet. So this thing has been, we can say, is a closeness, a proximity to poet's life has been presented in this poem. So these are the things here in this poem. The poet, or say the lover, apart from this, compares his life to that of a soldier, to that of a statesman, a musician, a sculptor, and he finds himself in a better position than all these people. He feels that he has got at least some sort of achievement in his life, and what do they achieve actually? His achievement is better than that. It is actually more substantial, more concrete, more solid than their achievements. So that kind of feeling has been expressed here in this poem. Now let's see how he conveys all this. So let's begin then. That I said, now he is talking, he's expressing that idea, and then the beloved has also been in this talk. We come across the beloved as well, though beloved is not participating in the dialogue, means no thought of beloved or no idea of beloved has been presented here, no speech of beloved has been presented here. It's only the lover who is expressing his emotions and thoughts. So that's how it comes out. Let's see. I said then, dearest, since it is so, since now at length my fate I know. So he's saying, now since it's all clear, since everything is now, because he has been rejected, he was kept waiting for a long time, and finally his proposal was refused. His what he actually hoped, his proposal to the beloved, was totally rejected. So now he says that since it is so now, and at last, finally, now I know what my fate is, what is written in my destiny. So I know that very well. It's now very much clear to me what is in my lot. Since nothing, all my love avails. So it avails nothing. It gets nothing. There is, though I tried hard to get your love, to get my proposal accepted, but it avails nothing, it gets nothing, it's a failure, since all my life seemed meant for fails. That since now it seems that it is, perhaps my life is for failure, that perhaps I am to meet failures, or the success is not in my lot, not in my destiny. Now it seems at the end that I have tried hard, but I'm not going to get anything, I'm not going to get your love, so it seems all failure. Since it was written, and needs must be, since it was written in my destiny, as he is now accepting his destiny, whatever is written by God, whatever is written in destiny, that must happen, and so it has happened so. So I accept that. That's what he is saying. My whole heart rises up to bless your name in pride and thankfulness. So now finally, accepting my lot, accepting my destiny, accepting what is there in my fate, I bless you and I thank you. I bless you and I thank you. I feel grateful or thankful to you. My whole heart rises up to bless you in pride. That though even it's a failure, but in pride, my heart like bless you for whatever you had given to me, and I feel thankful and grateful to you at this moment. And now he says, take back the hope. Take back the hope you gave. I claim the memory of the same. Now I don't need that hope that was kindled in my heart, that I felt that I'll get your love, that my proposal would be accepted, but it was not. So now I don't need that hope. That hope is shattered. So you can take that hope back. I only claim the memory of the same. So at the end, he just wants two things from his beloved. He is claiming he wants just two things from his beloved. One, he wants to keep the memory. He wants to cherish the memory of that love affair. He simply wants to ask that he should be allowed to cherish the memory of his love affair with the lady, with his beloved. So I claim the memory of the same. I just claim the memory. I just want to cherish it. I just want to keep it in my heart forever. So one is that, and two, he says, and this beside, if you will not blame, you leave for one more last ride with me. So he says, now, so one is that, and two, that if you don't blame me for this, if you don't feel it unwelcome or untoward, then I would like to have one last ride with you. That's the number two. That's the second that he wishes, that he wants from his beloved. That one, he wants to keep it in his heart, cherish in his heart, and two, just a ride with his beloved. So now what happens when he asks for that? That's to be seen. My mistress bent that brow of hers. So here it's not the eyebrow, the head, forehead. So my mistress bent the brow of hers. So she simply, we can say, bent her head, just we can say drooped down, like just moved her head down in a manner of what? Reflection, thinking, pondering. So she did that. Those deep dark eyes where pride demurs. He's saying that my mistress bent that brow of hers, those deep dark eyes where pride demurs. So now what happens is actually the pride goes against, demurs, disagrees, that the pride of the mistress, that how can you agree even to that? No, not. Okay, you cannot. So the pride actually don't allow her, the pride doesn't allow her to agree to that request. It demurs, disagrees, goes against that feeling. But then what? Then pity would be softening through. So there is a conflict. One is what? The pride that disagrees, doesn't allow her to agree to that demand, and pity that says, okay, let's fulfill the last wish. Let's fulfill the last wish of hers, at least Okay, so pity would be softening through it. Means pity, just suppressing that pride and just melting it all away, melting that pride away, and just melting her heart, and just allowing her to accept that last wish at least. So, fix me a breathing while or two, with life or death in the balance, right? That fixed me. It was like a trance-like situation, a hypnotic state, a gaze perhaps, that she just fixed me, and he was like all still, all transfixed in that condition. So what happened is that for a while or two, for a second or two, he was all still and all in a state of bewilderment, unable to understand, with life or death as if just hung between life and death, one side life, the other death, dangling between the 2 points and 2 terminals. The blood replenished me again. And what? So here I pointed out that eccentricity is one of the features, and he has experimented with different verse patterns in all his poems. And here too we find that in the first stanza, the poem has 10 stanzas. In the first stanza, and in all the stanzas, we find the 5th and 11th line in a peculiar rhyme, though there is the other lines too are in rhyme. There is a rhythmical pattern being followed, but then this is an oddity, that 5th line all different from the other lines, and the 11th line in rhyme with the 5th one. So this break of rhyme, and then again creating a rhyme in the 11th line, in the last line. So this is a kind of oddity and eccentricity that is found in Browning's poems, and we find it here as well. In the first stanza you can see this me and be, and here just right and tonight, 5th and 11th line, so they are in a specific rhyme. So the blood replenished me again, and after that, what? There was a gush of blood in him, just a spurt of blood all at once. That joy was back, the glow was back, the happiness was back. Why? The last wish was accepted by the beloved. And what? My last thought was at least not vain. That finally at least my last thought was not in vain, was not useless at all. That was accepted. She agreed to that. So that gush of blood he felt within him. I and my mistress, side by side, shall be together, breathe and ride. So one day more am I deified. Who knows? But the world may end tonight. So what he's saying, that finally his wish was accepted, and he and his beloved, they ride together side by side, and he feels that as if he is enjoying a heavenly bliss, feeling like God himself. What? One day more am I deified. So deified is like a feeling of being in heaven, a heavenly feeling, a heavenly bliss, like God, feeling like God himself. So when his wish was fulfilled, when his demand was accepted, he feels himself as if enjoying a heavenly bliss, a godlike feeling he had. So that's how he is expressing that feeling here. And now he says, hush, if you saw. Now the comparison is really quite beautiful here. The kind of imagery he has presented here. A long comparison, a conceit, we can even call it a harmonic simile. The way he has presented it, just going over several lines here. So, if you saw some western cloud, all billowy bosomed, overbowed by many benedictions. So if you have ever noticed, if you have ever noticed a western cloud, all billowy bosomed, that is what all swelled over, all wavy, as if like totally impregnated, filled. So if you have ever found such a cloud, overboard by many benedictions, like as I said, impregnated, filled, full of many things, benedictions, blessings. And what kind of blessings? So he has made it clear here. So now we see the use of parenthesis as I mentioned here. So what is that? Benedictions, he is making it clear. Suns and moons and evening stars at once, as if the cloud overloaded, laden with the blessings of the sun, the moon, the evening star, all together is loaded with all that. And what? And so you, looking and loving best, conscious grew. So you just observing that, okay, looking at that, loving that, you grow conscious of that beauty there. You become conscious, aware of that. You notice, you observe that. Conscious grew, your passion grew, and you get passionate, the strong emotion running all over your body, all over in your veins, in your flesh, that you become passionate about that. You become very, a strong gush of feeling runs through your body when you become conscious about that, when you see that, when you notice that. And then what? It draws that passion, those strong feelings, those strong emotions. They draw what? The cloud, sunset, moonrise, star shine too. And that passion, that emotion that draws all that to you, near you, close to you. And till flesh must fade, for heaven was here. And this happens until you lose the feeling, the sense of this earthly presence. It happens until this corporal existence all vanishes in the thin air. It fades away in that thin air, and you feel yourself in heaven itself. You feel a heavenly bliss, a heavenly presence. So it goes on until then. Your passion draws all that close to you, and you find yourself in the middle of that heaven, all surrounded by those sun and moon and star shine and all that. So you feel like that. So that's why it's written that till flesh must fade. That means this the sense of earthly presence, this corporal presence, all vanishes into thin air, goes away, and you feel a heavenly bliss. Thus lent she. Now all this is being compared now with what? His experience then and there. So he says, thus lent she and lingered joy and fear. Thus lay she a moment on my breast. It means when she reclined on him, when she reclined on his breast, when she reclined on him on his chest, just what reposed against him, rested over him, then what against him, then what? That joy and fear, mixed feeling lingered, just paused, just stayed there in air, just suspended in air for a moment. So here he compares that feeling, that when she just reclines against him, so that feeling is being compared with a heavenly bliss, that when you notice some western cloud in that way, all blessed and all laden, all loaded with all kinds of blessings and benedictions, so he felt the same kind of blessing, same kind of heavenly bliss at that moment. And now he says, then we begin to write. Then we begin to write, my soul smooths itself out, a long cramped scroll. So this writing is going on, and now he is comparing this with a scroll, long cramped scroll, as if a paper all crammed and crumpled up, and when it is put out in the wind, in the air, so that with that when it's smoothed out, it unfurls, it unfolds itself. So he had the same kind of feeling, his soul, which was all crushed and crumpled in grief and despair that his love was rejected, refused. So now it was like coming out of that, as if the wind unfurling cramped or crumpled paper. So now it was a freshening feeling, the coming out of, he was coming out of that grief and sorrow and despair of rejection. So freshening and fluttering in the wind, past hopes already lay behind. Now there was no use of thinking or just ruminating or pondering over those things that he hoped in the past that he will get, but was now that was of no use. So what need to strive with the life awry? So what he means to say is, what is ended cannot be mended. So why think of the past, what he hoped in the past and all? Now it's no use. Now that ruin or whatever has wasted, now he cannot get that back. He cannot mend that. So then why one should struggle for the things that he cannot get? Why one should strive? Ori is useless. So why should then one struggle for the things that one cannot get? It is useless. Had I said that, had I done this, so might I gain, so might I miss. So he is saying, if I had said that, generally as people say, okay, if I had done that, I would have definitely got that. If I had done that one last thing right, I would have got selected and all. So people say such kind of things, and here he says that, see, it's no use saying so. Had I said that, or had I done this, what's the use of now talking about all such things? Now that has all gone. And so might I gain. So perhaps I might gain, but I could miss as well. I could miss as well. I could. Who could say? Who could say? So might she have loved me? So it's possible that if I had done differently, she might have accepted my love. Might be possible. But just as well, she might have hated. Now that too is possible. Who could say for sure that definitely she could have accepted my love, my proposal? It could have happened otherwise as well. Now, how? How could we say for sure anything? Who can tell? So where had I been now if the worst befell? And here we are riding, she and I. So if, see, the worst befell, if the worst happened, if the worst occurred, then where would I have been? At least I should thank God. Thank goodness, thank God that didn't happen. At least I'm having a ride, so I'm happy. He's saying, I'm happy with that ride. I'm okay with that ride, at least I'm getting that. So I don't wish for that what would have been like if I had done this or said so. It's no use saying or just pouring over all those things. So now he says, fail I alone? Fail I alone in words and deeds? Why all men strive and who succeeds? So is it that I am the only one who has failed? Is it so? Is it the fact? What he means to say, no, it's not that. People fail. So many, many people fail in their words and deeds. So I am not the only one. There are so many people. All men strive. All. Who doesn't struggle to achieve their goals and ambitions? So all struggle, all strive, but who succeed? How many? How many of them succeed? Few. Like most of the people struggle, but how many? Very few. Very few. So then why should I then complain? Why should I grieve? He says, we rode. I got something at least. We are riding. So he says, it seemed my spirit flew, so other regions, cities knew. So he is really feeling very happy, heavenly feeling he was having, that soaring high like above this earthly planet, and he just like passing through new regions, new horizons, new cities, all just flying or soaring in a different land, a different planet. So it was that kind of feeling for him, and so my spirit flew. So other regions, cities knew, as the world rushed by on either side. So when they were riding, things passing by him, just as happens that when we move ahead we see things passing in the opposite direction. So that feeling, that thing for him was like a kind of heavenly feeling, as if he was soaring in some other planet, passing, seeing new cities and new horizons. It was that kind of feeling, not some trivial earthly feeling, but just kind of, we can say, exalted heavenly feeling he was having at that time, at that moment. And he says, I thought all labor, yet no less bear up beneath their unsuccess. So what? Yes, all labor, all work hard, all toil, but then who doesn't have to face the failure? They have to bear, they have to put up with the unsuccess, the failure. Okay. People, they do fail in their attempts, so it happens with all. So what's the problem then? He says, look at the end of the work, contrast the petty done, the undone vast. So finally, yes, we see people do this at the end. At the end, when they look back, when they cast their eyes back, and they see that all through their life, when they are just, we can say, on the last steps of their life, when they look back into past, they see their achievements are just petty, trivial, nothing, insignificant in comparison to the things they could not do or they could not achieve. So undone is vast, means what not done, what is not done, what is not achieved, what they couldn't do is huge in comparison to what they have done. Their achievement is really very pygmy, tiny, okay, just penny, short, trivial, meaning insignificant in comparison to that the undone vast. That means the things that they could not achieve. So he is trying to justify his achievement here, and for that he is giving all these things, all such philosophical we can say making statements here. So this present of theirs with the hopeful past, so they compare that the past was quite hopeful right from the childhood. One's life is built on hopes that I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll become this or that. So many hopes and desires are there in the heart of a child, in the mind of a child, and when he or she grows up, those desires and hopes slowly and gradually they become shorter and shorter, and finally in the whole lifetime, in that one's tenure of life, we can say, one is able to achieve just one or two things at the end. So what the present of theirs, when they compare it with the hopeful past, so that's what they find, that undone is vast. So I hoped she would love me, I hoped she would love me, and here we write, see, I hoped she would love me, and here we write that at least I got the right, we are writing, so that's quite okay, fine. Now it says in the 6th stanza, what hand and brain went ever paired, means what is there in your mind is not all done by your hands. There are lots of things in our mind, but do we turn them all into action or deeds? So no, it doesn't happen. What heart alive conceived and dared. So see, conception and execution, as he says, what act proved all its thoughts had been. So conception and execution, desires and deeds, they don't move hand in hand, side by side. It's not that what all you desire you can turn them into action. It's not that what all you conceive you just convert them into deeds. Who can do that? It's not possible. There are lots of things just churning and just coming up, raising their heads over in your heart and your mind, but we cannot turn them all into action. So does that happen? That's what he's saying, that doesn't happen. What will but felt the fleshy screen, all wills, all desires, all wishes have to face the limitation of this flesh. After all, this has certain limitation. Your body has certain limitation. This fleshy screen, So our soul is confined within this. We are bound by this corporal existence. So one has to face the limitation. This is finite, and our desires are infinite. So our infinite desires have to face the limitation of this flesh, this body, this corporal existence. So all desires have to face that. They are to be confined. In the confinement of this body, we ride and I see her bosom heave. So she's like breathing heavily, and like long gushes of breathing are just there. He notices that her bosom heave, and there's many a crown for who can reach. So he's saying that leave that all aside, leave that alone, leave that all aside. I'm happy with this ride. I'm happy in her company. I'm happy in her proximity. That's what he's saying. I'm enjoying this. So now he compares it with different other people. He says, there's many a crown for who can reach. 10 lines. A statesman's life in each. There are statesmen, the kings, the aristocracy, the royal people. What they achieve at the end of their lives? Just an obituary notice, just 10 lines. That is what they get at the end of their life. Thus, the people who devote their life for public service, for the people, and at the end, when they die, what do they get? Just some lines as an obituary notice. So this is what do they get for their whole life of service and say dedication and devotion for the public. So is it enough? And then he says, the flag stuck on a heap of bones. A soldier's doing what it owns. That, and what does a soldier get? A soldier dies for his country, for his nation, sacrifices his life for some great, for the country, showing his patriotism. And what happens? Just a flag is stuck. A flag is struck where he dies. What atones? Does that compensate for the sacrifice of his life? Does that compensate? Is it enough for what he did for his country and nation? They scratch his name on the abbey stones. So what? Just some epitaph, just some engravings, some inscriptions on his grave, abbey stones, Westminster's Abbey, like he is buried with some great people of the time. So, is that okay? Is it enough? Does that compensate for the sacrifice that these people make? So finally he says, my riding is better by their leave. So like apologizing, just taking their permission, he says, if you permit, if you don't feel offended, I feel what my riding is better. After all, I got something substantial, something concrete, better than what these people get. And now next he says, what does it all mean, poet? Well, your brains beat into rhythm. So now he is addressing the poets, comparing his achievement with the poet's achievements. He says that your brains beat into rhythm, you just write in rhythm and rhyme, you make, compose, you tell what we felt only. So what common people, what masses feel, you express them, those things. You tell what we felt only. You express, you hold things beautiful, the best. So the beautiful things, the best things are expressed by you in words. You convert them, you put them into words. You bring those beautiful things before the people, the masses, and paste them in rhyme, so side by side. And what? You present them all in a beautiful, in a rhythmical manner, in a rhymed manner. It is something. So of course, it's something. Not anybody or everybody can do that. Something. And say, nay, it's much, not just something. It's much more than that. Of course, it's really quite, we can say, special. It's rare, it's not common. It's a quality that not anybody can do so much. But even then, he says, but what's the use? What's the use? He says, then have you yourself what's best for men. But even after doing such unique thing, you have such a quality, a rare quality, uncommon quality. You do great thing. It's great really to compose things. Not anybody can do that. But even then, do you get the ideal things for you? Do you have those great things in your life? Have you yourself? Have you yourself what's best for men? Do you have what's best for men, the ideal things? Do you get in your life? And he says, are you, now again a parenthesis here, poor, sick, old, your time, that is before. Means, do you not get old, poor or sick? Do you not? Don't you get poor? And then he's saying, let's connect it with the later one. Are you nearer one whit, just a bit? You're on sublime. Then we who have never turned a rhyme. So then what's the use of doing all this, that you compose poems, you do things which is quite rare, which is quite uncommon, something that not anybody can do, and yet you also face all those things that we common people do. You also become old, you also become poor, you also die poor, you also get sick. So everything is just the same. And you are not even nearer a bit, just a step further even, to the sublime state, to the exalted, to the highest state than we, who never compose anything, who never write anything, who couldn't do this. Then what is the use? And what's the use of throwing your life into such kind of rigorous practice all life? Then he says, my riding, sing, riding is a joy. For me, I ride. So he says, so I'm happy. I sing and I enjoy. I enjoy. I'm happy here that I got at least something. Partial success at least, a part of my wish got fulfilled. So I'm happy. I sing for that. I celebrate. And he says, and you great sculptor. Now, here comes the sculptor. So you gave a score of years to art, like the sculptor just dedicates and devotes and surrenders all his life, scores of years, so many years, whole life. They surrender to their art. Her slave, of course, they become like day and night, they just dream that, live that, their art, they are like that, the artists. and that's your Venus. Of course, your art is your Venus, your Aphrodite, your goddess of beauty and love. That is, whence we turn to yonder girl that floats the burn. But even then, what's the use? The whole life you surrender, you just put into that in your art, you devote all your life in making those things, you become a slave of that, and people of course may praise, oh, that what a beauty it is, what a sculpture he has made. But even then, that is nothing before the real beauty, the life, the lively one. Whether that is an ordinary woman just crossing a rivulet or a river, even that common one. But even before that common beauty, your exquisite beauty of art is nothing, because when the real beauty is there, people turn to that. So of course you can imagine people watching some great paintings or sculptures in a museum, and a real beauty comes there like Aishwarya Rai or Angelina Jolie or somebody like that. So people definitely turn to that. Who would watch then the sculpture or painting or anything like that? It's quite a common tendency. So then the poet is saying, then what is the use of devoting or dedicating or just putting all your life into that kind of thing when you are going to get nothing, when it's nothing or insignificant before even a common beauty. And he says, you acquiesce, you agree to that, don't you? That yes, I'm right. And he says, you acquiesce, and shall I repine? And so, then if it is so, then shall I repine, shall I crave and grieve for what I couldn't get, that my love was rejected? Should I grieve for that? Should I say desire for more than this? Why? I'm successful enough even in this. He says, what man of music, now musician here, what man of music, you grown grey with notes and nothing else to say. What? That musicians, their hair turn grey like mine. Okay, so though I haven't turned any or just composed any music, though some poems of course, but not any music. But even like, so he's saying the musicians, that musicians who just devote their whole life in composing music, their hair turn grey in doing that. Is this your sole praise from a friend? Greatly his operas strains intent, and what you get in turn, that opera means musical play. So his music is really great. So musician gets this only, that oh wow, superb, your music was really great, okay, I really love that music. So this is what you get in return. People simply say a line or two in praise after devoting the whole life. So he says that put in music, we know how fashions end. So this is just a fashion. We know that what kind of music was there earlier in early times, and now what kind of music we have. All the rap and pop and jazz and all such. The classical music is not enjoyed now. People enjoy pop and rap and such. So how put in music? Fashions end. Whether the music or clothing or any such thing, we see how it passes with the time. So then what's the use? Your music is too, this too is like vulnerable. It's quite prone to the ravages of time, vulnerable quite to be hit by the time. So then why? He says, I gave my youth, but we ride. Fine. I just I spoiled my youth after you. But okay, fine, I'm happy that we are having a ride. So isn't it good enough? And now he says, who knows what's fit for us? Who knows what's right, what's fit, what's suitable, what's good? Who knows? We don't know. He says that we are not some astrologers or who can foresee or just judge that what is right and wrong. So had fate proposed bliss, here should sublimate my being. If there had been bliss in my fate, if there had been the pleasure in my destiny, if there had been all the happiness in my lot, then what? It would sublimate my being. Means it would itself elevate, raise, exalt my being, my this very existence. Had I signed the bond? Now here he is actually referring to the bond signed by Dr. Faustus in one of the plays by Christopher Marlowe. And the play was after the chief character in the story itself, that is Dr. Faustus. So in that play, what happened, Dr. Faustus, who wanted to have all knowledge of the world, signed a bond with a devil, Mephistopheles, and he exchanged heaven for his desire. That okay, I don't want heaven. Now whether you lead me to hell or whatever you do with me, it doesn't matter. Here I don't believe in afterlife or all that. Means I don't want to go into heaven or what happens. I just want to enjoy all heaven here. I just want to fulfill all my dreams and desires. So he signed a bond with Mephistopheles. So this was the story. And he's saying, had I signed the bond, perhaps I won't have to think of the afterlife. I won't have to think of the life after this earthly existence, heaven or hell, whatever I get. So he says, still one must lead some life beyond. But no, see, one has to lead some life beyond. There is afterlife as well. After this earthly existence, one has to go to heaven or hell, whatever it is. Have a bliss to die with, dim described. So one must have some bliss to die with, something, a pleasure, something unfulfilled, some dim described which you don't know, which you can't clearly see. So something must be there to die with, at least that will be fulfilled there. So this foot once planted on the goal, this glory garland round my soul, could I descry such? So now finally when I am here, I am almost on my destination. I have reached my goal, this glory garland round my soul. I have attained partially at least what I wanted. So could I descry such? Then should I think anything beyond that? Should I look forward to any such thing then? That not or crave for more? Should I? Could I descry such? That's what he's saying. Try and test. So just okay, then try and test, explore, try, go ahead and test that what can happen after this. So he's saying, if it had been there in my fate, definitely everything would have happened here. Like I would have my proposal accepted here, but perhaps that's not to be accepted here. So I've got this, at least that she accepted my last wish to have a ride with her. So that's okay, it's fine. So then why should I think anything more than that? So could I describe such? Should I think of any such thing? Let's try and test. But then he says, no, earth being so good, would heaven seem best? At this time, this earth is best for me. So then why should I think of heaven? Why should I think of heaven when earth is all best for me? It's better that I'm getting all my things fulfilled here. Then why I should think of the heaven, that what I'll have there? So now heaven and she are beyond this ride. So I couldn't have her in this life here on this earth. Heaven too is beyond my imagination. So why should I think of all that I couldn't have? It's better what I'm having here. Let's enjoy that. Let's have fun. So I sing and write. That's all fun and joy for me. That's what he says here. So, and yet, now the last stanza, saying that, and yet she has not spoke so long. Some grammatical, we can say, complicacies are there. Not spoke. So, has not spoken, and in place of that it is has not spoke. So he says, and yet she has not spoke so long, that he had been lost in his thoughts and she didn't speak anything. So what if heaven be that, fair and strong? So perhaps heaven is just like that. What? At life's best, fair and strong, at life's best. So when you enjoy life at its best, when you are all good, perfectly healthy, fair and best, everything is going all fine in your life. So it is perhaps that heaven is just that, life at its best. What more heaven could be than this? And what we generally do with our eyes upturned, with our life's flower, is first discerned. We look at that with our eyes upturned, looking into the skies, looking upward, looking towards heaven, where actually life originated, where life is from. So we look towards that. We think that yes, heaven is there. That is heaven for us. But then the poet says, I think heaven is life at its best. It's not so. So we fix so, ever should so abide. So now he says that we, and fixed so, like riding in that way side by side, should go on like this. That is heaven perhaps. I'm enjoying the heaven here. So we think of heaven in that way, we with our eyes upturned looking towards that heaven, we think that heaven is there where life originated. But I think, isn't that heaven, that we are enjoying life at its best? And if it goes on, then what else one could dream and desire than that? With what if we still ride on, we too, with life forever old yet new? That what if it goes on, of course with the passage of time will be older and older, but yes, with the range of emotions and feelings it will be newer and newer. Okay? So what if this goes on? Change not in kind, but in degree, will be the same, she and me, but yes, so same, the kind, but not in degree. So the emotions, the sensibilities, the sensations, the feelings, it means the degree will go on changing, will undergo a change. So not in kind but in degree, of course. So the instant mad eternity, what if this instance is turned into eternity, like we are immortalized. If this turn into if this goes on unstoppingly, unceasingly, and heaven just proved that I and she ride together forever, right? That I and she, that we go on riding like that, so it will be heaven for us. We don't need any other heaven if this happens, if this moment is turned into eternity, if it is like it goes on unstoppingly, unceasingly, ceaseless, non-stopping. Okay. So then that's heaven, or more than any heaven for us. Why should I then think of that heaven? This is heaven itself actually. This earth is heaven when you are enjoying life at its best. So this is how he raises that feeling of, or he turns that feeling of dejection or despair into a feeling of joy. That unrequited love is sublimated here and elevated here by the poet. So how beautiful, very beautiful love poem, and very beautifully expressed, very beautifully the idea very beautifully conveyed, quite substantial, and includes the philosophy of life as well, with a special rhyme scheme as well. So, and all the other qualities, excluding obscurity, which is not here in this poem. The idea is very much clear. So we find here in this poem, and I hope it's all clear to you. So I'll come with more such videos for you. So till then, keep watching, stay connected. Thank you very much.